We're ready.
Okay. Well, I'll start with a welcome. Thank you for coming out to learn more about GEUS's community solar project. Tonight, we're going to go over some background information first about the GEUS system for those of you who aren't as familiar with it. And then we'll get into some details about the project. I'm going to turn it over to Trevor. And I guess I should introduce myself. I'm Alicia Hooks. I'm recently retired general manager for GEUS. I served in that role for about 8 years. And I worked very closely on this project from the start. And Trevor Hand is with SunGrid, and we'll go through their role in this project as we go through the presentation. Once we're done, we're going to open it up for questions and open discussion. And so what I will ask is that you come up here to the podium. We'll turn it around. There's a microphone on it, so everyone online that's joined us can hear that, hear all the questions, hear all the responses. We will ask that you state your name and address when you come to the podium so we can have a record and be able to reach out to you later with more information as the project hopefully progresses. So with that, we'll get started. So just some history on GEUS. It was formed in 1891 by the community. GEUS is a community-owned utility, so if you're a GEUS customer, you're an owner of the system. Private utilities wouldn't provide service to Greenville. They were providing service in the larger cities like Dallas, but Greenville was not large enough, and so a group of citizens came together, started a private utility, which ultimately was turned over to the city, and the community purchased that and has continued to operate that since that time. The rates are based on cost to provide service and build and maintain the system. It is operated as a not-for-profit utility. Infrastructure and operations are also funded through the rates. And generation has been produced locally in Greenville since that time, since 1891. It's the first municipal utility in the state of Texas. So GEUS's governance, GEUS is governed by a board of trustees. And actually, I'll pitch right now that there are a couple of openings coming up on the GEUS board. The applications are online. You can find more information on the GEUS website. You can also read more about that in the Herald Banner. The announcement will be in there this Saturday. But the board has been authorized to, or provided the authority to set rates, issue bonds. Their authority was enabled by legislation, and it was approved by a vote of the citizens in that 1988-1989 timeframe. Our current board members are with us tonight. Sue Ann Harding is our chair. You can go back one. All right. So just going in the order that they're on the screen. We have, goodness, and now I'm going to draw a blank. That's terrible. Victor Gore. I'm sorry, Victor. And then Greg Chesney, Karen Bates, and Doug Rosehart, the newest member of the GEUS board. So anyway, the mayor also serves as an ex officio member of the board. So next slide, please. So just a system overview, GEUS serves a 97 square mile area, services 32 miles of transmission lines, 594 miles of overhead distribution lines, 149 miles of underground distribution, and is interconnected with ERCOT. I used to say ERCOT, and everyone just kind of had a blank look. I think everyone now after Winter Storm Uri knows who ERCOT is. So the mission of GEUS is to maintain competitive rates, increase reliability, and improve services. And the project that we'll be talking about tonight falls into maintaining competitive rates and improving services for customers. So now we'll talk a little bit about the project. You can go to the next slide. So we issued an RFP for 10 megawatts of local solar. SunGrid won that competitive bid. That was for multiple reasons. One was the lowest cost price for the energy and the fact that they were not seeking tax abatements. They had experience in Hunt County. They had just completed a project like this for FEC, Farmers Electric Co-op. They have a local operations center, so if we have an issue with any of the panels, any of the equipment, they have a very quick response time. And what we're looking at is distributed solar facilities. So these are not the massive panels for as far as you can see and you're driving and the panels just keep going. This is for smaller compact sites and they have to be located in areas where they work on GEUS's system because these facilities will be interconnected with GEUS's distribution system. The power doesn't flow out through the transmission lines to the greater ERCOT grid. This is power that flows on the local system. And so you have to have connection points that don't overload the lines, the distribution lines. Also, we needed to locate low-cost or no-cost lease rates to keep the cost of the power down to benefit the citizens that GEUS serves. And so with that criteria in mind, we sought land that was kind of out of the way, out of sight, but where we had sufficient facilities to carry that power. So what are the benefits of a community solar project? A big one is that this provides a hedge, a 10 megawatt hedge against rising system cost and energy. GEUS is interconnected to the ERCOT transmission system, and the cost for all the transmission in the state is shared between all the utilities who use that system. And the way the costs are allocated to each utility is based on your peak load. Having community solar connected to the distribution system lowers that ultimate peak load and therefore lowers the cost of transmission. We've estimated 175,000 to 200,000 in tax revenue to the various taxing entities. The local investment by SunGrid will exceed $20 million. Also, this will provide a renewable rate option for GEUS customers, for business customers and residential customers. And the way that program is structured, ultimately the power produced would be divided up into various rate classes, and customers would be able to sign up for that renewable rate, which is an important goal for a lot of businesses and for a lot of individuals in the community. The sites don't create noise, pollution, and don't require any water. Water is a precious resource, and this does not place an additional burden on any of the city services. The sites selected have very limited future development potential. Some of these are in floodplain and have other utilities running through the sites like pipelines and things such as that. All the energy and renewable energy credits produced by the facilities are owned by GEUS. This is not power that's produced and sold on the market. It actually flows directly into GEUS's system. So the sites, this is just kind of a big picture view of the 4 sites that we're working on now for this project. And the locations are listed there. We're going to have in the upcoming slides each site. Do you want to go to the next slide? So this is site 1. It would be a 2 megawatt facility. And that's 720 County Road 4103, which is north of Lee Street. You can see the floodplain map there on the, I guess that would be the left. Well, it'd be the right for you. So that is site 1, and this is the configuration of the actual facilities. And so you'll go to the next one. So east of Morganstill and north of Shelby Road, this would be a 2 megawatt facility. Again, you can see this one's partially located in the floodplain. That's over in the industrial park area. Site 3, quarter mile east of Cottonwood Estates. This would be a 4 megawatt facility. This is the largest facility. And another, the final facility is a 2 megawatt facility that would be west of the northern end of the runway at the airport. Okay. So just to sum up kind of what we've covered, the reason why GEUS is looking at this project is to lower the system costs now and hedge against those expected cost increases in the future. If you've read the news about all the growth in Texas, billions of dollars are going to be spent building transmission to support that. GEUS will pay a share of all of those costs throughout the state. Those costs are socialized. And this will immediately take megawatts off of that share, off of that peak. It also allows GEUS to offer that renewable rate option for local citizens. Many of the businesses here in Greenville have corporate mandates on renewable energy. You know, there's a lot of businesses that see that as a corporate responsibility. And GEUS wants to be able to support not only the businesses here in Greenville, but the citizens as well in offering flexibility and options. This project would provide productive use of some limited use property. Again, private investment of $20 million. No tax abatements are being sought, and expect to produce around $4 million in new tax revenue over the 25 years of the project. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Trevor to just talk a little bit about SunGrid and what they've done and this project.
Thank you, Alicia. And thank you for everyone for coming out. Before I speak about SunGrid, I really do want to stress that we have been out in the community, engaging with the community, hearing feedback from the community. We have talked about a number of different locations prior to these 4, and the community was great to share their feedback, and we've adjusted and adapted to what I believe are 4 very great locations that truly do provide that win-win, not only for GEUS, but for the community as well. So, you know, just quickly on those locations before I speak to SunGrid, you know, each of those were intentionally designed, as Alicia mentioned, to be in a location that's accessible to the grid. We need to be able to connect the facility to discharge the electricity to the grid. That's important. They need to be distributed around. It can't all be one location, so that's important too. And we've been very intentional in terms of trying to put them in places that are going to have as least impact as possible. And for those locations that are there, you know, we'll ensure that that we maintain certain tree exposure that's currently there to help to protect the visible lines, the lines of sight for the location itself. So we do believe it does provide that win-win. So in terms of the technology and SunGrid, our company, in terms of what we do, so we've been fortunate to support other utilities in Texas. One of them is Farmers, and we have 3 sites that are local to Greenville, sort of the south side around Greenville. Most people never know that those are even there because, like these sites, we've been very intentional in terms of where they're located to make sure they have as minimal impact as possible in the community, while still providing that benefit to the local community by way of renewable energy directly to the grid. And with that, not only do we have the experience, but we, as Alicia mentioned, we have a local operations center where we can service those facilities, and we can address any issues in a real-time basis. And that's really important for something like this. Typically, there's not a whole lot that goes wrong with these, but when something needs to be addressed, having someone locally to be able to do that is really important. So a little bit maybe of a bigger background on SunGrid in terms of who we are. We do focus on these local distributed solar facilities. Me personally, I'm a big believer in them. I do think that they are a great benefit to the community because they're not, as Alicia mentioned, those massive solar facilities, but they do strategically benefit a local grid like GEUS's grid. And but we're also fortunate to build solar facilities for other companies as well. So we've got a large construction side of our business where we do build solar facilities for larger owners and operators and EPCs across the country. So we have experience building hundreds of megs of solar facilities outside of Texas. So we certainly have not only the knowledge in terms of what goes into developing smaller distributed solar facilities like you've seen here, but we do understand large-scale solar facilities and what goes into them and what's required to make them work safely, efficiently, and effectively. And then the last thing I'll touch on, because I think it's important, is the technology. So when it comes to these smaller solar facilities, it's important to note that they are relatively basic, right? You've got solar panels that are affixed to a steel structure. That steel structure allows the panels to follow the sun. So throughout the day, they'll articulate to follow the sun to achieve the maximum generation from the solar panels. So you've got steel racking, you've got solar panels, and then you've got some equipment that that converts that electricity from a direct current to an alternating current. It's essentially fairly basic. We are very intentional in terms of, because we look at this as we're helping develop these facilities, but we're going to own them and operate them for the long term. So we are very intentional in terms of ensuring we have great quality equipment that's going to last the test of time, and we go with the best quality solar panels out there. So these panels are the most hail-resistant panels that you can buy, and that's an important thing, as you'll know for living around here. We will experience some hail from time to time, and I would say that we've done this approach previously. We've had other sites up and running now for more than 3 years, and we've been very effective in not having to replace any of those panels except for one due to what we think is hail. We're not sure if it was hail or not, but that's important to understand how the technology works, the fact that we invest in the highest quality equipment and material as possible, and the solar panels themselves are very hail resistant. In the event, as I mentioned, of an issue, we are lucky and we're fortunate because we have a local operations center, and we can attend to not only the vegetation management that is required at these sites, to make sure they always look great. We don't want the grass to be overgrowing. We want them to look presentable, and that's important to us. And but we want to make sure they're going to be operating as they should. So we've got a local facility that does that. We're big believers in Hunt County in the Greenville area, and we're always looking to hire here locally. And we have an apprenticeship program also that is based here. And for these projects in particular, we're going to be hiring a number of local people. So encourage, for those of you interested in jobs in this space, certainly to reach out to us, and we'll be hiring more people as the months come along. So I'll pause it there, and you want to open up to questions?
Sure. Yes, at this time, we'll open it up. So anyone who would like to speak, if you'll just come up to the podium here, we'll spin this around. And if you'll just come up, state your name and address, and yeah, we can go behind here. Okay, yes. Open for questions.
Is the address gonna be fed on live? If you say our address, is it going on the telly? Or to the grand internet that's getting?
Yes.
Yes, it would be.
I'll kick it off. Dwayne May, 5 Heritage Greenville. Question, who owns GEUS? I think you just answered it a minute ago, but would you repeat that, please?
Sure. The citizens that are served by the system.
And who are we trying to go in partnership with here today? A private entity, and who might that be?
Right, SunGrid.
Huh.
SunGrid.
Is that a DBA? Is that a LLC? What is that?
SunGrid, I'll let you answer that.
Sure.
You answer that.
Yeah, so, yeah, SunGrid is an LLC.
Okay, no DBA.
No, it's
Okay.
it's an LLC.
Now my question is, and this is all sounds grandiose and such, but what if we get down and it's 25-year life and $4 million maybe after 25 years we might get back in taxes? That's for all 4 government entities. Anyway, that's pretty cheesy. But to go on where I'm going with this is, so say there's a problem down the road, where it be performance-wise, economic, environmental that we're unforeseen right now, and or clean up after the 25 years, and say the LLC is not around anymore, that it's declared bankruptcy. Who is held responsible to clean up and or take care of any financial obligations that exist if they walk?
Thank you. No, it's a good question. And we have this addressed in the contract that we have between
Well, can you just tell me?
GEUS and ourselves. We're responsible for that. And the
Okay.
LLC that is the owner of these individual solar facilities is responsible for ensuring that. And, you know, the reason for that is because not only contractually is that the case, but these sites, you know, they do generate revenue, and they have enough revenue to support the expenses to maintain those sites. So essentially, they're designed to ensure that they can maintain themselves based on the revenue that they generate over the long term.
Well, again, heaven forbid, if something does go wrong and this thing goes south, the LLC, if it declares bankruptcy, now it's pretty simple, there's no one there to go for. At the end of the day, it's the owners, the ratepayers, is who's going to be on the hook, because they're the only ones that have a pocket left in order to take care of any of these problems. You see where I'm coming from? And you can say what you want to, but an LLC is an LLC. That's what it's designed for, is to shed responsibility if things go bad, regardless of what you say. And nobody knows in 25 years what that might cost to clean that mess up, and or what might come along in between that time. If an escrow or whatever's put out there is depleted, then I guarantee you there's none of the partners are going to go in and pony up and take care of it. It's going to be the owners of GEUS. It's going to be who's going to be on the hook for that.
Yeah, one of the things I would point out is GEUS does have the option in the contract to purchase the facilities in years 7 and 10. So at that point, GEUS would have ownership of
Why
those
would you want to
facilities.
and assume that responsibility or that liability ahead of time?
It's because it's really a low risk. You're talking about solar facilities that don't contain toxic materials, that can be maintained and removed fairly easily.
I mean, that's easy to sit up here and say fairly easily. I mean, what experience have you had in removing solar panels and disposing of them?
Yeah, I have not.
Okay.
But utilities definitely.
I guess that's where I'm
dispose of
going with
those.
this, Leisha,
Mhm.
is if the taxpayer, not the taxpayer, but the customer owns GEUS, the customer should be the ones to make the decision. If we do this, or not, because regardless of what you say, they are the ones that's going to be on the hook for any problems if this thing goes wrong. And it needs to go on the ballot for a general election for the public to decide on it, not some little board up here to make that decision when it could impact everybody disproportionately. That's where I'm at. Thanks.
Thank you.
It's an honor to be in the same room with Alicia, and I wish she'd come out of retirement and come back to Greenville full-time for GEUS.
Thank you.
You've been nothing but a pleasure to work with and to know. A couple of quick questions. 2 yes and no answers, basically. If you want to go beyond that, fine, and one you can describe. It was mentioned before that we're trying to beat. I know we almost had a meeting last Monday night, P&Z did, and they were going to come pick up members with police cars and fire trucks to be sure they could make the meeting. And I appreciate the offer for that because I couldn't drive, wasn't going to drive in that kind of weather. But there was a mention about federal incentives that had to be deadlines that were going to maybe go away this summer. My question, I've got a lot of friends wanting to know the same question. Have the federal incentives been applied for?
Yes. So the federal incentives are included as part of these projects.
But have they been approved?
They have been. Yes.
They have been approved.
Yeah.
So there's that part of it is all taken care of right now, and the
Correct.
federal government is going to supply part of this funding that you're needing to get this project to go, and not come back to just the taxpayers.
Correct. Without getting into the nitty-gritty of the tax code, we need to demonstrate, start of construction, and we can do that by purchasing equipment for these projects, and we've done that
Okay.
already.
James Evans, 6410 Buena Vista Drive, Greenville, Texas. I think I left that off at the first.
Thank you, sir.
I'm Joshua Smith. I live on Private Road 3340, just outside of Greenville, but inside of the GEUS distribution network area. Got a few questions. One, with this change in partnering with the solar power company as part of the GEUS distribution, will this change the way we treat our individual solar providers in town, particularly the homeowners that put them on the roof but are limited in how much they can produce and put into the GEUS grid?
This project is different from residential solar.
Mm-hmm.
That policy is in place. Any changes to that would have to be made by the GEUS board.
I was just wondering if the GEUS board is considering making those changes, or if we're going to continue to restrict individual homeowners.
I guess I'm not aware of a restriction beyond you can't supply power that exceeds the consumption of your home, and that's due to equipment. If you're producing more power than your home is consuming,
Mm-hmm.
then at some point there has to be a limitation on that, or you're upgrading equipment, and who's paying for that?
Fair. Do we have engineers on staff who've been able to vet all of this and verify the engineering?
Yes, we have. GEUS Engineering has reviewed this. Our power supply has reviewed it. There's been a lot of work and a lot of research done to reach this point. These are not an uncommon project for utilities, especially, and it's not just especially municipal utilities, co-ops. CPS Energy in San Antonio, the largest municipal provider in the nation, just announced they're installing 50 megawatts of community solar.
Did we use,
So it's a common practice in municipal utilities.
did we use any third parties to vet the proposals that came in?
We did.
Okay. What happens to the sites in 2046 at the end of the 20-year expected lifespan?
Yeah, it's a good question. And the goal will be to continue to operate them. Solar panels these days, they have a 30-year warranty on them from a structural warranty. So the goal will be to continue to operate them into additional terms, so an extension of a term. And at that point, you don't know where the technology is going to be. We may, it's called repowering. We may look to change out the solar panels because they may be a different wattage or a different power profile, and to continue to operate this location as an energy generation facility.
Okay. When you talk about offering a premium, is solar going to cost more than electricity generated with natural gas or diesel in the GEUS system?
That would be determined through the rate development process, and that process has not commenced because we're not at that stage in the project. So if these projects move to construction, then that work will start to review how those rates will be structured for the community. Different municipal utilities have handled that in different ways. Some have set aside a block of that energy to be offered at a lower rate to give lower to middle class customers more access to that renewable rate. It really depends on how that rate is ultimately structured.
If it's more expensive, how does this lower the overall cost for the GEUS consumers in the area?
The renewable rate would be an option. The actual price for the energy, the board has to decide how that is going to be passed on to the customers through the rate, but the savings is in avoided cost.
Okay.
That will apply to all ratepayers, unless some of that savings is applied to lower a rate for a specific class of customers, and there would have to be a need for that, a desire for that in the customer base for that to go forward.
So would that be something voted on, or would that be something that the board would kind of gauge the community's willingness to support a subclass to be determined in the future? How are those decisions made?
That'll be made through the structure of developing the rates. And so I'm not sure what the board's vision is for that. But I think if there's interest, the board meetings are posted publicly, and citizens are certainly welcome to come provide input and just reaching out to GEUS in general about providing input on that process.
Where are the panels made?
These panels, I believe these ones are made in Southeast Asia.
Rather than German panels?
I believe so.
And then polycrystalline rather than monocrystalline?
That's correct.
Blue instead of black?
No, they are. I have to double check on the exact the crystalline. But
GEUS was advertising polycrystalline. I just wanted to double check.
Yeah.
And then textured glass or smooth glass?
these are very detailed questions. I believe it's smooth glass.
Yeah, I noticed in the GEUS FAQ we said no glare. However, if you use a polycrystalline structure, if you use a hail-resistant system, which is probably 2-ply tempered glass with a thin film in between, and non-textured glass, you actually have a large glare coefficient.
I disagree, and we've already put these in front of the FAA, and as you've seen on the locations, you know, they do have close proximity to the airport, and they have passed the approval process with the FAA, so there's no concern about glare.
Can we get access to the FAA's report on the sites and locations?
I'm sure that that's public on the FAA. We can
Where would we go to find that?
we can follow up.
Okay. How about thermal islands? As these things are absorbing energy, they also emit infrared. On the glide path on runway 107. The FAA took that into consideration as well?
I'm not sure how the FAA does their evaluation, but they do these across the country, and we've gone through the full process, and they've been approved.
Okay, as long as we can see the reports, because so far I'm seeing some inconsistencies between what's reported in the FAQ versus physics. So that's why I got the questions. Made in Southeast Asia, how are they certified as far as zero toxic elements, hail damage? Are they certified in Southeast Asia as well, or are they certified by an American board?
They're certified by a
DOE?
national board. So these are tier 1. So we can follow up with some additional information, but they're considered tier 1, which gives them a certain level of certification.
Right, but tier 1 as defined by the Department of Energy, or is this tier 1 as defined in Shenzhen, China?
No, it's not in Shenzhen. Tier 1 is a Bloomberg.
Bloomberg?
Yeah, qualification.
Okay. So you're investing 20 million. How much of that was from the government subsidies? Or is that all invested by the LLC on top of whatever we get through government subsidies?
So I don't have the financials here in front of me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, getting into the details of the financials, I don't think is appropriate at this point. These are standard facilities that get installed all across the United States, utilizing the federal tax incentive.
And do you guys have an expected ROI?
We do. That's an internal number as well.
What I'm trying to do is predict the overall cost to the users that are getting involved in this public-private partnership. And it's kind of hard to do. You can use the initial investment and the return to the taxpayer, lump all that together. That's an initial place to go for a cost for us. But if the ROI is 5 years, that changes the numbers a lot more than if the ROI was 15 years. So just trying to figure out return on investment. Is that going to come later maybe? Or is that all going to be internal?
I think, because this was an RFP process that was open up to a number of different companies, and the successful company was chosen, as Alicia mentioned, as SunGrid, primarily because of the pricing that we provided. So it's the most competitive pricing in the industry, and also because of all the other benefits we've talked about.
Right, but once you go back to talking about premium for the energy, you start to talk about cost. It's like, okay, but would it be cheaper for us to just buy another diesel generator potentially? Would it be cheaper to invest in another natural gas facility?
Yeah.
So I was just trying to figure that one out.
Right. So the difference in this and putting on another diesel generator is, one, the maintenance, the cost to produce the energy. This is going to be a more effective way to produce that distributed energy. When you're installing diesel generators, you don't get efficiency unless you buy a big enough generator.
Mm-hmm.
And to buy a generator that would produce 0.99 megawatts would be very expensive and costly to maintain. Also, one of the decisions to go with SunGrid, to go with an external entity to construct and maintain those panels was due to the initial investment. Having another company make that investment, maintain the panels, but keeping that option in the contract for GEUS to take over ownership and maintenance in the future was important. Because a question was asked, why wouldn't we just do this ourselves? We've adapted to technology through the years, that was a question that was on the table. Is GEUS going to build this themselves, or are we going to use a third party? And the decision was ultimately made that it was better to utilize a third party initially and have the facilities constructed, operated, and maintained by that third party, at least for the first 7 to 10 years of the contract.
Okay. So I was looking at the state law regarding remediation for damage. So like if a tornado were to come through, and I noticed that the law states that you need to have credit or some other financial means for remediation of the site on damage. I noticed that the law does not stipulate remediation for adjoining properties. All of these are located within a quarter mile of residential homes. If a tornado comes through and destroys one of the 4 sites and glass ends up spread across 4 or 5 miles, who's on the hook for remediating the other sites?
So that's included in our insurance. So obviously we have to have insurance for these facilities for the full cleanup as well as to replace them.
And is that cleanup for the site or cleanup for catastrophic damage?
It's cleanup for the catastrophic damage.
So that would include the community. Okay. Have you guys ever had to do a remediation?
We've supported other, not our projects, but other projects with repairing other projects. We understand how these sites are built. We've got a large team, and we know what it takes to build them, and essentially what it would take to remediate them as well.
You guys been keeping up with what Idaho's doing with their potato farmers and their solar sites?
No.
Currently, the state of Idaho will no longer allow any sites that have had solar panels to go back to being used for agricultural purposes because remediation cannot remove the glass from the ground sufficient to protect from glass intrusion into crops like potatoes.
And just to be clear, I think we got to make sure that I'm not aware of what you're saying. I'm not saying it's incorrect. But when you mention glass in the ground, you know, you must be talking about a catastrophic event that came through there.
Tornado, windstorm.
Okay.
Things that happen around here.
And I believe, you know, that the tempered glass nature should more or less maintain the integrity of the panel itself. It depends what's going to come through in terms of the potential event. But I want to, you know, mention to you that I don't want it to seem that this is a factor or whatnot. I think we have to dig into what you're saying there.
Yeah. When you think about car accidents, windshields are tempered glass, double paned, safety glass with the plastic center layer. You still end up with glass all over the car after an impact in the front. Same thing here. You impact a solar panel, you do run the risk of small shards of glass going everywhere. The majority of it will be contained, but I understand why people would be concerned about that. Maintenance facilities here. The jobs you're creating are local.
That's correct.
Some number to be determined.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, okay. I'll look forward to seeing documents go up onto the website, hopefully.
Thank you for your questions.
Hi, Jessica Causey. I live over in Jackson's Run. So my question is, how long have you guys been in business? When were you guys established?
We were established in 2018.
Okay. Being so new, why do you feel like you're able to have GEUS say, in 7 to 10 years, we'll buy it back from you guys? It looks like you guys are going to be renting to us during that time, not renting, just putting up. Explain that process for me if you can.
Sure. So, you know, SunGrid will make the investment to develop and then construct the facilities. We will operate those facilities over the life of the project, and the electricity that is generated by those projects is sold back to GEUS.
Okay. So when you're looking for a buyback of the actual materials, is that going to be a lump giganto sum?
Are you talking in year 7 or 10?
Right. SunGrid will own all solar facility infrastructure, with GEUS having the option to purchase it in 7 to 10 years. Well, you guys have only been in existence for 8 years. So it's interesting to see, you know, that balance out of time. Or was it, do you guys have a parent company in Canada, or did I misread that?
No, there was another SunGrid that's not associated with us.
Okay, because even the overview on AI is linking you guys. So you,
Okay, thank you for that.
I'd be on top of
No,
that.
They're not associated with us.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
John Kelso, 6005 Horn Drive, GEUS customer. I thought I heard you haven't established rates for the residential or any of the rates that you might charge in the future related to this, but I have to assume in your contract, you must have negotiated some rate purchase agreement with the LLC, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And so you must have some idea whether that negotiated rate is competitive with your current purchases of solar from other places, or how it compares with your ability to generate with your own generating facility. you must have an idea if it's competitive or not.
Yes.
Okay. There's been a lot of talk around town, and can you address, there's been a lot of speculation about the purpose of this. And you've explained the purpose from the GEUS perspective, but there's still this conspiracy theory, I don't know what else to call it, that one of the purposes is this will be powering a data center in South Hunt County area. So can you talk a little bit about, do you have any plans, is it even possible for you to ever provide power outside the GEUS service area? And also there's been a lot of talk about your current efforts to build a 105 megawatt power generating facility. You're in the middle of that right now. And can you talk about why do you need an instant start, quick start, 2-minute startup on the new facility you're going to be building if it's not to provide power to a data center? Is there a good reason to have a quick start generating facility that has nothing to do with data center power? If you could address those.
Yeah, so I'm not aware of any plans for a data center. So I'll start there. GEUS cannot serve outside of its certificated service area. Those service areas were defined in the 70s by the Public Utilities Commission, and basically set in stone. The only way service territory changes is an agreement between utilities, and it's fiercely defended. Typically, it's a trade. You know, GEUS traded a small area with Encore several years ago because Encore had a small pocket, GEUS had a small pocket. They agreed to make that exchange. But to extend service territory out, you know, miles, it's not feasible. And that doesn't happen.
Is it allowable?
Only if two utilities, whoever owns that service territory has to agree to let GEUS take that service territory. And utilities don't want to give up service territory. Yeah. But GEUS is prohibited from serving outside of its certified service territory. A 10 megawatt solar facility would not, a distributed solar facility would not support a data center. The generation that's being built, Power Lane 2 is that project, 105 megawatts of quick start natural gas engines. The purpose of that is really replacement energy for about 80 megawatts of steam generation that is older than 50 years. It's more than 50 years old. It's inefficient. It's difficult to operate. Finding parts for those units is now very, very difficult. Finding support when you have an issue, having to reverse engineer things to keep them going. And eventually, they just won't meet the environmental limitations that the utilities required to meet. This is moving replacement. You know, the bulk of this is replacement for that. There is no current plan to retire that generation because they still work, and there are still times, and I'll point to just this recent winter event. Those units have the capability to operate on diesel fuel oil, and whenever temperatures plunge, Winter Storm Uri is a good example. You know, we had a unit that operated through that entire event, actually had a huge impact on reducing costs. So as long as they're viable, you'll keep them operational. But they would operate less frequently than the new generation because it's more efficient. And why do you need quick start? because you work in an ERCOT market where power prices swing, and they swing quickly. And if the market is paying more than it costs you to produce a megawatt, then that's a savings to the GEUS customer. If it's not paying more than it costs to generate, then you want to shut that down quickly. And some of the reliability services that GEUS is required to provide, or that pay a premium in the market, can be provided by quick start generation only.
So Quick Start is being done with this Power Lane 2 project to take advantage of the ERCOT market, buying and selling, and quickly coming online so you can reap the benefit of the higher price, or going offline so you can reap the benefit of it's lower now and it's more beneficial to stop immediately, rather than having anything to do with we need Quick Start because it's going to power a data center.
Correct. Thank you.
Sorry. Carissa Sanders, 6400 Stonewall Street, Greenville, Texas. And I couldn't hear very well in the back. I don't know if anyone's already asked about this. My problem is the secrecy. I understand that this is part of public records. It's been going on since 2020. However, the timing of it, we are in one of the largest primary election seasons in our state. And had it not been for someone who just happened to see a sign, some few others who just went and looked at agendas, and an ice storm, the majority of the citizens y'all serve would have never known this happened. So why the secrecy? Was it because you knew the majority of Hunt County has already spoken out and said, no, we don't want this in our neighborhood, that you wanted it anyway? Or, I mean, you could have brought it up in the fall. Why the town hall meeting after everyone in the community knows about it instead of beforehand?
Yeah. So I will say that we have been talking about it. We have made presentations to City Council regarding the major projects that GEUS was working on. That was in open session. I mean, I'd have to go back to look at the date, but that was quite some time ago. I mean, I think maybe a year ago even. But even before that, we've been going to the civic groups in the community, talking about this project. And I think we had to reach a point to bring it out to the greater public of we're definitely moving forward with this. You know, the plans and all the work on the contract to get the rates negotiated, the contract finalized, which doesn't mean that it'll go to completion. We hope that it does, because it is a beneficial project for the community. As far as secrecy, I would also say, you know, the GEUS board meets publicly at 6 p.m. every third Thursday, and that meeting is open to the public. So I think this has been talked about. It hasn't been talked about in a town hall, and you know, maybe that could have been done sooner. That's true too.
That is my next thing. Let's go back to the citizens you serve. We work. We have kids. You work. You have children or whatever, but you work at GEUS. I would bet 90% of the citizens in Greenville, Texas do not work at GEUS. And as far as keeping up with Hunt County Commissioners Court, GISD, City Council, Hunt Regional, GEUS.
It's a lot.
It is a lot. So I will say that at least some people make sure that people know. hey, we're having it, let's share it, we're live streaming it, whatever, on social media. It is the platform. Now, unless you actually pay to subscribe to Herald Banner, it is how the community knows what's happening in their neighborhoods. And which I think that y'all have plenty of very intelligent people here who know this. So it could have gotten out to us. We could have known. As far as letting the public know that we are moving forward with this, am I incorrect? This contract has already been signed as of February 2nd, correct?
The contract has been signed.
Okay.
But that contract is also dependent on securing the sites to build the facilities.
Okay, so if I didn't bring those notes with me today. You've already gone to the Board of Development, already applied for the zoning, and then if both of those were okay, which the ice storm stopped the zoning, you were going to put it in front of City Council for them to decide, and then the contract was supposed to be signed on February 2nd.
I think you're talking about the contract, the lease agreement on the property,
Mm-hmm.
or the purchase of a particular
The
piece
contract
of
between
property.
GEUS and your company, and yes, I do remember you from the same thing with Hunt County Commissioners Court, which you were asked a series of questions by two commissioners. One, I know off the top of my head, is Gary Smith, and yet nothing else ever came back about that. There were no answers given from the questions posed during that meeting.
We provided all answers, I think.
Well, it just kind of went away, I guess I should say. And the next thing you know, we see this on City Council.
So GEUS did withdraw its request to the county for
Okay.
those properties, and looked at other sites. The goal overall is to bring a beneficial project to the community, to the GEUS customers. And, it's not pushing for a site that, where residents don't want it. So trying to strike that balance in finding the right properties to place these facilities. But again, that's limited by where it works on the GEUS, excuse me, on the GEUS system.
May I ask, what caused y'all to pull out from the Hunt County Commissioner Court, the moving that direction?
Because there were other properties available that were farther away from where those concerns were. And so choosing to pursue those other properties, those other options.
So the concerns, if I recall correctly, one of them being it was in a floodplain and near the Sabine River and the ecosystem.
Correct.
And yet 3 of these properties are in the floodplain. Correct?
Yes.
Are they near?
Partial.
Two properties are in the floodplain.
Okay. Are they near rivers?
Yeah, the question is, they are the point or the intention of utilizing that location. Yes, it may fall within a 100-year floodplain, which means there may be a flood there in a 100-year period, but it's intentionally designed to utilize property that otherwise cannot be used for anything else. These facilities are intentionally designed such that the equipment and the electrical equipment sits well above any risk of water or the floodplain, such that it does provide that community benefit of having the power generation, provides the tax benefit, and it utilizes a piece of land that otherwise will never be developed for anything else. So we do believe it is a win-win in that regard.
Okay. First, I understand your position, Missy. Not used for anything else. Property is not used for anything else. Okay. Floodplain, can't build a house. You can't have a company there, but you do have the natural ecosystem. Correct. And I've read a little bit, but with it being your life career, first, I'm curious, has your company or you erected a solar farm in your town, neighborhood, county?
So technically, I own property here, and
No, I mean in yours, where you actually reside.
not myself, and that's very common.
In your company?
My company has not where I live. No, that's not uncommon.
Is there one in your area?
In my area, not with direct proximity, but I would say though that there are many hundreds of community solar facilities that are built throughout the United States that are, much closer to residential communities than what we're proposing here.
But you don't currently live near one.
I do not.
Okay. Back to the property that is not used for anything else. Have you heard about the bees? Honeybees, one of the most important things to our ecosystem, right? And the property in which they tend to leave and not return to is a solar farm.
And I would say let's have a conversation about that, because there are a lot of solar farms that are utilizing multiple benefits in terms of housing bee communities and ensuring that we maintain that ecosystem, as well as providing the benefits to the community in terms of electricity development. So we would be absolutely open to doing that, and if there's individuals that are involved in the bee community who want to utilize these locations for raising communities of bees, we would absolutely be in support of that. And I would say that we have to work together, because that's our goal. Our goal is to be harmonious within the community and support existing ecostructures.
Okay, then now we discuss soil. Once your components are placed into the soil, if I'm not mistaken, the soil is deemed damaged, no good for vegetation, livestock, any of those things. Now, I believe someone has already asked about who's going to foot the bill for restoring this. I know you hope to go 30 years, but let's say at 20, one or both of you say no. Who's footing the bill to restore that property, that land, back to its natural state?
So we have financial arrangements in place to ensure that the facility can be dismantled at the end of life. And essentially the amount of steel and aluminum that is included in that facility would help to cover the cost of removing that facility. So there's enough value on the site to ensure that removing that steel and those components from
You
that
said
site
there is,
valuable.
or if there is?
There is.
There is. Okay.
And you mentioned damage to the soil. We haven't seen that evidence of damage to the soil.
When was the first solar farm erected?
I don't have that information offhand.
Okay. Well, then I'll be sure to jump down that rabbit hole and we will talk about it again.
Let's do that.
Okay, hold on. I got another question. Will these projects require any kind of battery system storage or battery energy storage systems?
No, they are not. They have not been designed to include batteries.
Can you find another location further out in the county, like most solar farms, not inside the city limits?
Again, that the facilities have to work on the GEUS distribution system, and so farther out in the county, we would just not have sufficient sites. We have scoured, believe me, our service territory map, looking for where are there potential areas where these would create the least impact, and again within the parameters of having low to no cost lease, so that we keep the price down, because we negotiated a fixed price for this power, but it was based on we're going to do our best to secure low or no cost lease rates. And so, that is what has resulted in the sites that have been selected.
You own solar farms. Do you happen to have solar panels on your house? You do. Okay. Was it extremely
I would
expensive?
love to, after this, let me show you my app. And I'll show you the generation per day, how it's utilized, the benefit, how much goes back to the grid. It's amazing. Everybody should-
And
the grid. Were we talking about that earlier?
Yeah, we could talk about that after.
okay,
I'd love
no,
to
no,
share
no.
that.
This was leading me into the next one.
Sure.
Why could we not buy solar panels for the tops of buildings, for apartment complexes, homes, whatever in our community at a bulk rate? And then there would be no construction. You just put them on the roof, plug them in, and that'd take a lot off each homeowner. And then y'all can use the rest of the power to do with whatever you want.
It's a much different project than a compact distributed energy project. You're talking about something that is completely different and would function differently.
I'm sure, because I don't know anything about
Um,
power. This is why that, as a taxpayer, we hire people that appoint people to.
Well, I apologize if I implied that. I'm really not. I don't know what you know. I mean, we can't look at someone and understand that.
Well-
So, what I'm trying though
I'm sorry, I was
to
being
communicate
a little argumentative.
is
Go ahead.
that you know, that's a completely different type of project and carries a different type of liability as well, because if GEUS is the owner of the power that's flowing from those facilities, I mean, that could be something we could probably go down many rabbit trails on. But now you're talking about partnering with multiple entities for very small incremental amounts of power. And
But if you were to offer a grant or something, and each homeowner who wanted
installs
to
their
could
own.
had solar panels, that would take the pressure off y'all. Each one who did that would take that pressure off of you, and therefore,
There'd be a lot of rooftops, and I mean, what we're talking about here
I'm just saying.
again is a different type of facility that actually
these were the
tracks-
things. I'm sorry to interrupt, but these are the kind of things that had a year or 2 years, 3 years ago, having a town hall meeting, announcing it to the public, like someone asked me to share it and make sure everybody knew about. This is where a town hall meeting comes into play, before contracts are signed, before the planning and the zoning and the city council. And I'm thankful whoever the lady was who actually saw the sign, and the other people that went looking at agendas. I'm thankful for that, because this is my problem. Like, I don't even do politics. I do not like politics. It's the secrecy, the slipping it through, all this. That's what irritates me. And that's what I'm very disappointed in with the Board of GEUS. Now, him, I don't know you. Sorry, I just know that you appear before Hunt County Commissioner's Court throwing out the same things. And I wasn't supporting you then, but don't take it personally. But that's what I'm disappointed about, and that's what a town hall meeting is having these conversations, like, what about this, what about that? That's a town hall. What we're having now is, we're going to tell you what we've already decided to do, and this is how we're going forward. Do you understand what I'm trying to say here? Like, I'm not trying to be rude. I'm just, am I relaying the information properly?
I think it's providing an opportunity for you to provide your concerns, for us to provide some answers. And so I do think this is a town hall.
Okay.
But it's way too late.
That guy, what he said.
I know that she's not trying to be rude, but I am.
It's just a little late. And it's going to happen whether we like it or not. I appreciate you taking the time for letting us know how it's going to go and what you plan to do and how y'all plan to handle it. Thank you for letting us know after the fact. However, I personally at this point hope City Council does not agree. Thank you.
Thank you.
I've got a question, just so I can clarify what I'm hearing now. So you've already signed a binding contract between him and GEUS, is that correct?
We do have a
Is
contract.
it binding?
Is it binding?
Yes, ma'am.
It has
That's
provisions.
not what I'm asking.
Uh,
Can GEUS, the owners of this facility here, can they back out of it without any penalty? That's the question.
if the facilities are not constructed, yes.
Okay. You're not answering my question. if we decided today not to do this, is that contract binding to the point GEUS cannot back out of a so-called agreement with this man?
If SunGrid cannot build the facilities,
So basically, it's what you're saying is no.
that is not what
That's
I'm
exactly-
saying.
Yep, that's what it sounds to me like,
It-
because
it-
they're gonna go ahead because they're getting $200 million from the feds.
They have to get approval from city council.
Right, but
They have to get approval from P and Z.
Okay, let me ask you.
If those approvals are not obtained, that contract
Is null
is
and void?
null.
That's all I need to know. Thank you.
Yes.
So there's still an opportunity to keep something like this from happening?
If the facilities aren't built, the contract is null.
No, that's not what you just said. That's not what I just asked. You asked me, you told me that if the city council and the zoning didn't pass, it would be null and void. Now you're coming back and saying that the facilities aren't built. So which is?
Where can they build them without getting P and Z zoning approval and city council approval? So in GEUS service territory, either the county, the council, the county or the council, wherever that plot of land lies, has to approve that
And
zoning
if it's not
or
approved,
that conditional
or,
use permit.
or if it was to put out on a ballot for the owners to vote on it, would that do the same thing? I guess if they voted it down, I guess they could put it on there. I don't know how that would work, but why would you bind the people before you have a town hall meeting?
You have provisions in the contract
Why would you
to protect.
Why would you sign that contract regardless before you had a town hall meeting? I don't understand that.
You can't move forward with the
Well, you sure
project,
can.
even the viability, if you don't have a contract.
You would have signed the contract typically after you got approval from zoning, approval from the city council, and the board and the GEUS board all sign off on it. Then you would have signed the contract.
The GEUS board authorized the project. The contract is signed. It has provisions that if the facilities are not built, there is no penalty to GEUS.
The
And
question is, my hypothetical.
Ultimately, it's customers.
Or my question is, if it was decided at city council to be put on for a vote by the owners of this facility here, would that be the same thing? If they didn't vote on it that night, tabled it or voted it down and then put it up for vote, would that achieve the same thing I'm asking? Or would you have a lawsuit against GEUS? That's the question. I see a grin, I don't hear an answer.
I don't know if you want to respond to that.
Yeah, I think,
Is the $200 million, is that already funded from the Fed?
I don't know where $200 million.
I thought I heard $200 million a while ago mentioned. Is that not for infrastructure?
No, sir.
I misunderstood. I couldn't hear real good back there.
I don't know.
Okay, but you sell this off as tax credits, right? Is that y'all's annual tax credits?
Every solar facility is built across the United States.
Tax
utilizes
credits,
the
right.
Federal tax
Okay.
credits to build the facility.
That's a question. We'll see what happens. He never answered my question though.
You talk about it being multiple issues.
Can you come up to the podium and state your address and name for the record, please?
My name is Thomas Black. I live at 6808 Sale Street. You talk about there being multiple, like it's a pain for there to be multiple contracts with individual businesses and homeowners and everything. When she was asking, I believe she was asking about grants to put them on buildings instead of taking up a whole land mass. Isn't that the point of what community is? Isn't that part of what the job is here? To work with the community, to come up with a solution that is better than taking a land mass?
It's a different product, rooftop solar and
I understand that.
distributed commercial solar. These panels track the sun, and that offers greater benefits to the system than having a fixed panel system. And so, again, It is a common project across utilities, and is pursued for the benefits.
It, it just doesn't make sense that we wouldn't try another route outside of taking a huge landmass and then not working with businesses to mutually benefit the entire community.
I think it's a good question, and I appreciate the question. I'm going to liken this to, there was comments earlier around the 105 meg natural gas generating facility. To equate it to what you're saying, is just, well, instead of doing that, let's go out to 5,000 homes and let's give them a natural gas generating facility to connect to the grid. The cost of doing that is much different than doing it in one location. The same argument could be held for what we're talking about today.
Just because the cost is more doesn't mean it's not better.
I'm not going to debate that. All I'm going to say is the costs are much higher to put solar, call it 10, 15 solar panels on your house, versus identifying a location for a centralized solar facilities where the panels and the technology follow the sun to maximize the generation in that location. So it's important to understand, although I appreciate your question, it's a great question, there is rationale around scale of infrastructure and why that makes more sense from a cost standpoint.
I understand, but again, it's, and I'm not saying specifically homes. Really, what she was mentioning was businesses and buildings, and that feels more like a beneficial thing for the community than this. And that's really what my question is. I'm not necessarily looking to have solar panels on my house, but this building, all of the buildings out there, the W, all of those buildings could have solar panels on them, and that would be beneficial for the entire community, and it would not take up a landmass.
And I'm not debating that.
I know
It
you're
goes
not
back to
debating
my previous example of, I think there's rationale around having a centralized location from a cost standpoint, and that's really the reason why these happen everywhere across the United States. Yes, I think residential and commercial solar are still happening. It does make sense, but there is a financial reason as to why you would centralize those types
I
of
understand
systems.
the financial reason, but because somebody gets extra money doing it that way, and I understand that, but the way that it could be is better for the community. And if we are a community, that would be a better option. And then my next question, because I'm not getting anywhere with that one, is what can we do to stop this as a community?
Yeah, this is
Which
really
is essentially what he was asking, I believe.
And I think it's a valid question. I think for those of you who saw us in Commissioner's Court, we've been talking about this for a while, and we apologize if it felt secretive, because that's not the intention. The intention is to engage the community, and the reason why there was some adjustments being made after some of those meetings was because, hey, you know what? Maybe there's a different location where we can truly find that win-win, and that's the reason why we're doing this. It truly. These are projects that we believe. I get it. I'm in a biased position, but if I try to step back and look at this holistically, we need electricity, and we need a combination of various forms of generation, and this will truly benefit the grid. It'll benefit the community, the consumers within the community, and we've been very intentional in terms of choosing locations that are going to have the lowest impact. Are there going to be some individuals like yourself that are going to have some questions or concerns? Absolutely. That's going to happen with every types of project out there. And we're trying to address those. We want you to understand. We want you to appreciate the broader goals that are at play here. And we want to work with you. And our belief is that these locations have been carefully considered. They work with the GEUS system. They have as minimal impact on the community as possible, but they also provide that benefit of generating the electricity locally here and providing tax basis and tax revenue.
Okay, that was a lot. What I'm really getting to, and that actually just didn't even answer my question, but we're a community, and I didn't even know this was happening until an hour ago, and I just showed up because I didn't have any prior engagements because I don't have a voice very well right now, but like it doesn't feel like this is trying to really, because how many people are in Greenville, I don't know, but this is not a lot of people to show up for something like this that is pretty impactful for the entire community. And I know you're saying that it wasn't intentionally secretive or anything, but this does seem like a kind of a blindside to me, and I consider myself to be pretty involved. I go to city council meetings as I can, and I'm in community programs here. I go to the library all the time, and this is brand new information to me as of today.
And once again, that was never the intention. You know, we've been talking about this. I think Alicia commented on how long this has been talked about, and it has been in other public forums, commissioner court meetings and whatnot. So the intention was that this is very public, and we apologize to you, you know, if you weren't aware of it.
And we're now seemingly at a point where there's no turning back from it. That's what he was trying to ask, essentially, and we didn't really get much of an answer. I know you tried, and you're legally obligated to say certain words and not say certain words, but at this point, what are we supposed to do as a community? And I understand it's not you two specifically. There are tons of other people in this room that are participating in all of this, that know all about it, and I don't seem to hear any of them talking about it or letting anybody know. I didn't get a letter from GEUS. Maybe I should have, you know, or something, some sort of thing. I'm part of all of the community groups on Facebook, and nothing. I didn't hear anything about this. I'm an admin for another community group on Facebook, and I didn't even hear about it.
And once again, you apologize you haven't heard about it. The intention is to bring people together, and that's why we're doing this. And I would say that, you know, there are some individuals that have come out tonight to share their questions and their comments and their concerns, and we appreciate that. There are a lot of people out there that, you know, believe that this is a good thing for the community and are in favor of renewable energy and believe that this is a good long-term investment. You know, so it's important to recognize both sides, and we certainly appreciate the questions and the concerns that come back, and you know, we're trying to address those for those of you tonight.
Okay.
Hello, I'm Paco. I live by downtown Greenville. I got a question. It might be a little ignorant. Is the company publicly owned or is it privately owned?
Which company?
GEUS.
GEUS is community owned. It's owned by the community.
Community. So, the community. So, do we own it or does the city own it? Or, like...
You own the city. If
own
you're
the
a
city.
citizen of the city.
Oh, okay. So, we
You
own. Okay. All right. You keep saying it benefits the community. It benefits us.
Correct.
What way will my lights turn on faster?
Right.
I know I wasn't here. I just got here, so.
Okay. You watch the presentation.
Okay, so my
But,
lights will turn on faster. This will benefit my lights.
But what the way that it benefits the customers of the system is it helps lower system cost.
So our bills will go down.
It helps lower system cost, which
System
in the
cost-
future are anticipated to increase bills.
Increased bill.
Not this project. No. The purpose of this project is to hedge against cost increases in the future, to help offset current cost.
Offset current cost, meaning
correct.
Instead of like, if it would have gone up, it wouldn't go up because this is going to offset that.
This is going to help
Keep
10
it at where it
megawatts
is.
worth of cost that would be associated with that if we were not producing it locally. Correct.
So if you didn't do this, our bill would go up anyways.
It's eventually going to go up, yes, because transmission across the state is exploding. All of the growth in Texas, all of the businesses that are relocating here require electrical infrastructure to operate their business. And that's public information. You can go out there and do a search. How much is Texas investing in the transmission system? GEUS pays a share of that cost based on our peak load.
Okay.
This project directly offsets that peak.
Okay. All right.
I mean, the reason this project was even pursued is other utilities are doing it and doing it very successfully, and it's been very beneficial for those utilities. It's one of those things that GEUS explored to offer additional value, additional benefits to customers.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. I mean, in all clarity, like, I'm for the project. I mean, because it does help, because the whole point of the town is for it to grow. This will benefit. More companies will come in. They'll draw more power. This will obviously help offset that. The main point that I know at, like, the bottom line is if it affects our bills. You know, it's like how much we pay and all that. That'd be
Right.
the main key point takeaway from everything. Because, like, I drove to Dallas today and I saw they were replacing power lines. They were, like, knocking some of those huge towers, and they were putting new ones. So I figure, oh yeah, that's good. If they do that here, we're growing. That incentivizes more people to come, and it's like it replaces the old, infrastructure for new. So for me, like, that's great. The part would be that the pricing side for us, So
Right.
So I mean, that was my main point.
Thank you.
Yeah. Sorry, I already asked the question, but.
Thank you.
Joshua Shoup, 2986 County Road 4307, Greenville. Very simple, just for clarification on the whole process. When was the RFP first put out?
Goodness. Well, it was initially issued around 2018 timeframe, 2019. It was issued, it was pulled back because, the process came in too high.
What year was that again?
I think it was around 2018, 2019.
Yeah, 2019 is much longer.
Yeah, we can put a timeline
Okay.
on
So
it.
that was the original RFP. When were you agreed upon that we would start to move forward with that process?
Sorry, when did we receive?
When did you win the RFP so
win
you
the
could begin?
RFP? So I guess technically I don't know the exact date, it was last spring?
Month, yeah. Last spring of 24?
Yeah.
Okay.
25.
25, sorry. Yeah, 26 now, thank you. Reason I ask is a lot has been said that it hasn't been talked about. If the RFP went out in 2018, 2019, we've had several years of this in discussion with boards and with other people. Communication may have been lacking. And I bring up the example of what the school board did here, school district did here, a couple of bonds, couple of things, got the whole community against them because they went a whole direction and wanted to push that. And they got shut down several times because of lack of communication, lack of vision, lack of community involvement. Where we're at now, that's where we're at. How that moves forward with the community, that's going to be your PR responsibility to keep the community as informed as possible of what's going on, how they can voice their opinion, maybe more town halls and things like that to avoid the catastrophe that the district did. The catastrophe that the school district had for 3 bonds, I think it was 3 bonds, for millions and millions of dollars, that burned the community. Not getting communication out to the community can burn GEUS. But just say this is a heads up. Do your best to communicate well with the community. Thank you.
Thank you for your input.
John Kelso, Greenville. I just want to get a clarification. I thought I heard a question. I thought I heard an answer, but I want to make sure I heard the question and the answer the right way. If the city does not approve these sites, your contract between the two of you is void with no cost to GEUS. Is that what I heard?
Unless the decision was made to pursue different property. I mean, the
What it-
property at the county,
So,
Uh,
okay, so if you've got a contract for, I assume, these 4 properties, or is your contract so general that it's not dependent on the vote coming up by the city? If the city disapproves doing any of this, is your contract still valid, or is it void because this project's dead?
it's not tied to those specific
Okay.
4 sites. What it is tied to is completion of the construction of the facilities.
Okay.
And there is no penalty if the facilities are not constructed.
Alicia, could you maybe make reference to the time, still in Harding, 1618 Park Street? But because of the funding, because of the funding mechanism that needs to go along with this to make it a good project for the community, because that's what this is supposed to be. Your rates are gonna be going up in the future, and this is a hedge against that.
Hopefully.
No,
No, hopefully.
completely, not hopefully, for sure.
You don't know what's gonna happen in 25 years. I don't care what you do.
We know that we're growing exponentially. We know about ERCOT. We know the need for more generation in the market. And all of that in the entire ERCOT, as she explained earlier, we pay our fair share in Greenville. Our bills ultimately, instead of being the cost of energy, the cost of the generation of the energy, at some point in time, the lines charge or the transmission costs are gonna get larger than the cost of producing the energy, possibly. It looks that way. And this is a hedge against that. It's a hedge against the transmission cost, which is a part of your bill. Just because it's a complicated issue and there's a lot of things that go into the cost. But this is a hedge against the future. So, because it's going to be going up to everybody who's in ERCOT, you have no control of that. That's controlled by the ERCOT board in Austin and all of that. And all we do is pay our fair share. But how many megawatts we put into ERCOT has a lot to do with what we have to pay. And if we're doing solar energy and it produces 10 megawatts, we'll pay that much less. And that brings our cost down. Does that make sense to everybody?
Does that mean that the 102 megawatt system would do even better for bringing costs down?
It's, yeah. Well, and the thing about the 102 is that will be used at critical times. Really hot summer, really cold winter.
Right. So what we did is analyze the size of the GEUS system and what's reasonable. 10 megawatts is reasonable, proportionate to the size of the GEUS system. You wouldn't build 102 megawatts of local solar because you need a mix of energy. This performs in a specific way, but in order to be reliable and produce energy when it's needed, you have to have an on-off switch. You have to have a gas pedal or ramp rate. And so there's value in different types of energy. And 10 megawatts was deemed to be the optimal size of the facilities for the size of the GEUS system.
Alicia and Trevor, I'm Greg Sims, Greenville Board of Development. I just want to say that, you know, trying to take a small community that owns its own utility to compete with the larger cities, the larger utility companies is a daunting task when it goes to recruiting manufacturers that bring $100 million worth of tax base to town, jobs, high-paying jobs, hopefully and then buy our water, buy our sewer from our citizens, buy our power from our citizens. I can't tell you how important it is for us to have enough power that we can supply these industries And I'll tell you, we're really at a disadvantage. We have so much capacity here at GEUS. We all know that. And the lead for transformer construction is so far out in advance, even 2-3 years maybe, I've heard. And we get requests from not only our existing industries who want to grow and expand, put more tax base on the ground, bring more jobs to our community, buy more water, sewer, use the services of the city, buy more power from us. They are asking for, 5, 10, 20 megawatts of more power. Mm-hmm. That doesn't even count the projects that we would like to come to our community to provide more jobs, more tax base. We've seen projects that are 20, 30, 50. I even got one this week, 1,000 megawatt request. 1,000. So, trying to help bring those industries here to town to help lower taxes. The city council has done a tremendous job of lowering the tax rate. Agree or disagree, whatever. They've lowered the tax rate over time. I'm hope that the work that the whole community's done, mean city, county, everybody's done, our board, with lowering the tax rate has been an impact of recruiting these companies to come to town and to buy power from and to buy water and sewer from our citizens. Because if we didn't have those, you try to replace the taxes that they are paying. Granted, we have to give them incentives to come here because every other city does in the whole country. They give them tax breaks to come to town. So, but 50% of something is better than 100% of nothing. So, if they come to town and they do, and they provide jobs for our citizens that goes back into our economy, it's a rotating thing. And I can tell you that a lot of those industries, you and I have sat at those tables, and they request, their customers request, how much green energy goes into manufacturing our product that we're buying from you in Greenville, Texas. They ask those questions. How many times have I asked you that?
Right.
What's the green makeup we have? Because this company needs it, because their customer asks for it, right? Yeah. So all those dollars flow. You got a customer that's not in our city, not in our state, that's sending their money to Greenville, Texas, to a company for a manufacturing plant that this headquarters may be in Wisconsin, it may be out of state, it may be in Texas, but it may be somewhere else where those corporate boards decide to send their capital money to Texas, to Greenville, Texas, to build a plant. They make the best case business scenario decision, right, to invest in our community. If the board supports this project in a way that it can affect everyone, because we are behind the 8 ball when it comes to power. And, we don't have you've told me this before, we don't have warehouses full of transformers, do we? So, it's so difficult to tell a company, can you provide the power or not? They want to know. They want to know if they spend $100 million, are they going to have enough power? Are they going to have enough water, sewer, things like that? So our resources. So all I can say is that any time that we can, provide a best case, nothing's perfect, but anytime we can provide a best case scenario and control our own destiny and be self-sustaining. Greenville is probably the most self-sustaining city in the state of Texas. We're the oldest electric utility, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, the oldest municipally owned electric utility in the state, right? So Greenville, these folks here voted, a long time ago that they wanted, to provide themselves self-sustaining power. They were tired of paying high rates somewhere else to somebody else that wasn't here. This is owned by the citizens. So, doing a project like this in public-private partnership, it is a different arrangement, but, probably, could save the taxpayer money if they were to go buy these facilities themselves, put them in, whatever, whatever the business case scenario is today. We don't know what it's going to be in the future. Nobody does. But all I can tell you is that, this project, if it goes, it is in floodplain property. It's probably not the best locations you could find, but it's some of the locations that offer the best alternative than what we've seen in the past. And I know you tried to do this early with county land, you know, and there was, you know, it was just wasn't going to work. You know, the citizens didn't want it that close and those sort of things. So, you know, this scenario that's happening is certainly going to be up to the citizens to decide whether they want it or not. You know, and so all I can tell you is the industries need it. The industries need it for their purposes, for their customers. And so I thank the citizens for considering it, you know, for this to go in and make sure that, you know, we've got some sort of future hedge against prices wherever they may go, you know, for everyone, all ratepayers. So anyway, I just want to say that. Thanks.
Thank you.
Sorry, I must have been just too anxious to catch my answer. What was the potential buyback cost in 8 to 10 years?
Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, it's based on evaluation of the facility at that time. So I can't tell you a number right now. You know, I think we'd have to look at what we do in the agreement is you bring in third parties to say what is the system, what's the valuation of it, and then that's how it would be transacted. So it would protect the citizens to ensure that it's fair value at that time. So we're not agreeing on a price right now. We're saying, hey, at that time, if it's year 7, if it's year 10, let's bring in a third party, put a fair value on it, and that's what it would be transacted at.
Have you performed any of these with your company in the since you guys have been established? Buybacks?
The sale of it?
Or the purchase of the equipment and all that other stuff by the electrical company.
The sale of the facility back to the utility?
Right.
No, we have not done that. And I would say that it's not common. You know, that is not common. It's something that was included in this contract because it was something that we negotiated. We felt it was in the best interest of the citizens because it gives optionality. And you know, I think I would say it's very uncommon. I've never seen it before. So I think it's something that's seen as beneficial for the community.
Okay, thank you. I didn't catch before.
Hi, Deidre Mead, 414 Division, Greenville. So something I think I heard, because I came in here knowing nothing really, is that when you were asked about doing some sort of community bulk buy of solar panels for residential, you said those are very different projects, which understandably so. I think what I heard was, could there be community involvement in some sort of, I want to put solar panels on my house, I want to contribute to the community. What can we do as a group where I'm not buying 10 panels, I'm part of 1,000 panels that are being bought by multiple citizens. So there is community involvement in that. They would work in tandem with each other. And then also a review of the limitations on what can go back into the system. You said there's equipment concerns, and I don't know what those are. But I think if that were part of the project or a phase of the project, I think that would really go a long way towards saying, we're not just acknowledging that you own us, we're saying, come play with us, come be part of this. And the two projects could go. But the other thing that I see is that might garner an environment in which all of these apartment complexes that are being built, which are a problem for our city for a lot of reasons, that may chance it becomes part of an incentive for, we're also going to capture solar on all these rooftops out there. I understand they'd be fixed and all that, but it'd still be something. And this land I have a question. Do these sites that have been identified, especially the private owner, have they said, hey, I'd really like to sell my land to you for this? How did that property get identified? Is it for sale?
Yes, yeah, the property is for sale.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not just, hey, I like that one. I think I'll go talk to them.
Yeah. It's tough, and it's once again that was identified for a number of reasons. There is a utility line there, which is critical. It is in an area that is not close to a lot of other people, right? So it's an ideal location, and it still provides the benefit of providing the energy and the tax basis to the community. So, that's the goal that we're trying to achieve as best as possible.
Okay. So one thing that touches my nerves, and that is when you say this land is no good for anything else. I think there's a lot of wildlife out there that would disagree with you. And every tree you cut down for this is one less tree for our Greenville, Texas, Greenville, American Tree City, and we're already cutting every single one down for the houses that are being built, but we're not adding panels to the top. So I could see maybe this would be GEUS in our city coming together to say, let's minimize cutting these trees down, because you can cut a tree down with a bulldozer, let's say 5 minutes, let's say an hour to clean it up. It might have taken it 200 years to grow. The housing divisions where they mow them all down and they plant this tree that was grown in a bucket that is inferior is not cutting it. So let's not make the same mistake with these kind of proposals. I think part of the proposal should be, this is how we're saving as many trees as we can. This is how we are going to make sure that we didn't cut all our trees down and now all our topsoil has eroded away. So there are ecosystems and they've got to be considered. So let's not say this land is no good, because it is good. It is serving a purpose right now. Just because it doesn't have a house or an apartment or a solar panel on it does not mean it is not serving a purpose. It's not all business. So that's my own personal offense. But I would love to be part of the community in which your company came in and said, okay, we're going to provide a program through GEUS that's going to allow all you community-minded citizens an ability to buy solar panels where your return on investment is not 10 or 15 years down the road. I'm 64. I may not make that. So can you consider something like that? I really think that would help, because that's what I observed, and I might have misread what they said, but I think you misread what they said too. Because I think it is more of it can be in tandem. It could be a good partnership. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question from a friend. Can the solar field or solar farm ever produce enough power to pay for itself, and how long will that take?
GEUS is obligated to pay a per megawatt price that's fixed throughout the contract. So as far as the facility paying for itself, that would all be not a concern for the GEUS citizens, because that would be a concern for his company.
Okay, so GEUS is not paying for it being erected at all. you are paying a lease to the city of Greenville for the land, or you're able, hold on, let me get this right. So it's our land, you're gonna erect it, we're getting the power, we're paying per kilowatt, and then after 7 to 10 years, we can decide whether we keep the contract or walk away.
That is correct. At that point, if GEUS assumed ownership, all of that would be decided. It would be an economic decision on whether or not to take ownership of the facility at that point. It would be what are the projected costs to maintain these facilities and operate them versus continuing to pay that per megawatt price to SunGrid to do that on behalf of GEUS, essentially.
Okay, and so if we decide we're gonna, so if we decide we're gonna keep it, do you own SunGrid anything for, after the contract?
The facilities would be appraised by a third party.
So
And
we might have to pay more.
we would, yes, GEUS would have to buy the facilities because at
Okay.
that point, GEUS has not, they own the output from those facilities, but they don't own the actual facilities themselves. That was the ownership model that made the most sense.
So 20 to 30 years, 7 to 10 years, you make that decision.
Correct.
These last 20 years, but you're saying it up to 30. But with technology the way it is, and I mean, just these little babies update how many times? A new phone lasts maybe a year and a half, 2 years before the new one comes out. With the updating of technology, we're going to own like a not so valuable classic of a solar panel farm.
Well, I'm sure there would be opportunities to upgrade those panels. I mean, utilities have engaged in that. Companies like SunGrid have engaged in repowering projects because the technology has advanced, and there is a cost advantage to upgrading that technology. You're seeing it a lot in wind farms right now, where rather than tearing them down, they're repowering those facilities. But
which are also bad.
Again, I think the question would be an economic question at that point. Does the benefit outweigh the cost? Is it a cost-effective solution? If technology is advanced to the point you could produce twice the energy from that same footprint.
Okay, so just to clarify, since it's a per kilowatt price, it will never produce enough power to pay itself off because we will always be paying them the kilowatt, correct?
We agree.
The original question, sorry.
The way these agreements are structured, unless you own the facility, you pay for the output of the facility. What will we own? The energy and the renewable energy credits that are produced by the facility. That's what GEUS will own.
And the amount that we pay them will be lower than if we did it ourselves.
It was when we looked at this project.
Is it still at current date, market value, whatever?
I haven't reran that analysis, but we did an economic analysis. We did one internally. We also hired a third-party firm that did an economic analysis on it.
When was the last time y'all did an economic analysis of this?
We did that before we awarded the RFP because we had to get the pricing from the RFP to plug into the economic evaluation to determine if the value was greater.
When was that signed? When was that agreement entered in? I believe someone
Last spring.
Last spring. And then the contract was February 2nd, and no one revisited numbers?
I'm not sure what the February 2nd date is.
Oh, last week. Okay, well, the announcement was February 2nd.
Last spring. Yes.
No, the one that, there is a contract says we have entered into agreement with, there was an announcement. I'll go find it. I'll just have to go search for it, but.
I think y'all mentioned that maybe at least being signed,
Possibly that.
or something.
Like it was just, like I just read it the other, was it Monday night? It's today the 4th. So, Thank
Okay,
you.
so it was
That.
the press release.
yeah, so
Okay.
y'all didn't, the timing, but y'all didn't run it again before announcing all that, just to check to make sure everything's good, before the city council looks at it again and approves everything.
I think I can kind of comment on this. This is the business I'm in, right? And if you go do any Google search right now, in terms of where energy prices have gone in Texas, they're only going up. And I think with you know, a number of decisions that have been made, I think the forecast, if you look at any models out there, is that the energy price is going to continue to go up. So hopefully that answers your question in terms of you're asking if they've rerun the model. And I think you can you know, see general perception that the energy trade prices have continued to go like this or like this. And I think it's looking like they're going to continue to go that way.
Also, I would add just that you're modeling a 25-year window, the length of the agreement. And when you're modeling something over that long of a period of time, current day prices, there will always be fluctuations on current pricing. But those long-term models typically don't change significantly in that short of a period of time.
So there's nothing in the contract to say, like, whatever the per kilowatt hours, am I saying that correctly?
It's per megawatt.
Per megawatt hours rate is, there's nothing in there. It's like, well, every year we're going to evaluate to see if it can't be lowered or anything like that.
No, these contracts are not written that way.
Okay.
No company out there, I mean, they're running their business model off a projection as well.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a company out there that's going to give you a negotiable price, because they're making that investment in the facilities based on the agreement that you signed, based on a fixed price for the duration of the project.
Okay.
And that's whether you buy it from West Texas or you buy it, you buy it from a facility that's interconnected locally.
Okay. Thank you.
Can I clarify something? Of these 4 properties, let's say they're the final ones. 2 are GBOD. 1 is near L3, which city owns, maybe?
L3 owns that property.
Okay. And then private. Who will, the 2 GBOD properties, will GBOD sell it to SunGrid, or will they lease that land to SunGrid?
They will lease the land to GEUS, and GEUS will sublet to SunGrid, is my understanding.
Wait,
I've
I
been
said
out of that loop for a
The
moment.
2 GBOD properties.
Correct.
I'm confused. Wouldn't GBOD lease it to SunGrid? Who? Oh, it's the Board of Development, not the Juice Board. Okay, that was my confusion. Okay.
No, I apologize.
That's
Greenville
okay.
Board of Development, right.
All right, so the L3 property, what would that look like?
I believe L3 would lease that to SunGrid.
To SunGrid Direct.
Correct.
And then the individual property, will SunGrid purchase that, or will Juice purchase that? So that property, in the 7 to 10 years, you would have to buy the property plus the facilities on that, if that decision was made.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Well, I think we've had a lot of discussion, had a lot of questions. I hope that you have learned more about this project, and hopefully we've provided some answers. If no one else is ready to come up right now. Okay.
I just want to announce that these items will be heard at 5:30 on February the 16th, that's on a Monday, by planning and zoning, and subsequently on Tuesday, February the 24th at 6 o'clock, these items will appear for public hearing. So those are the key dates going forward.
So thank you for coming out. Thank you for your feedback. I think, you know, there have been a lot of things shared and some frustrations, and that's good because the process is an evolution. So your feedback does matter, and appreciate you taking the time to come out and share it tonight. Thank you.
This video has been brought to you by GEUS. GEUS is your community-owned provider for electric, internet, cable TV, and true local programming.